August 1972. In Rawalpindi, Pakistan, inside a heavily guarded prisoner of war camp, that night was about to become history. This was the same camp where after the 1971 India-Pakistan war, 12 Indian Air Force pilots were being held captive. The security of the camp was so tight that no one could even imagine that anyone could escape alive from here. High walls all around, barbed wires on top of the walls, armed Pakistani soldiers everywhere. But inside this impossible place, there were 3 Indian pilots whose determination could not be stopped by any wall, any wire, or any gun. They escaped from this prison in such a way that it left the Pakistanis stunned. This story begins on 3rd December 1971, when a fierce war was going on between India and Pakistan. On land, the Indian army was pushing Pakistan back on every front, but in the skies, the situation was not so easy. Near Pakistan's Zafarwal city, a tall watchtower had become a major problem for the Indian Air Force. From there, the Pakistani army used to monitor Indian movements and often fired accurately at Indian aircraft. The responsibility to destroy this watchtower was given to a brave Indian Air Force pilot, Dilip Parulkar. Dilip Parulkar was known for his courage, discipline, and bravery. He knew that the mission would not be easy, but it was necessary for the country. On 10th December 1971, Dilip Parulkar took off on his mission in a Sukhoi fighter jet. As soon as he reached near the watchtower, Pakistan's anti-aircraft guns opened heavy fire. Bullets were heading straight toward his jet. Within moments, his aircraft was badly damaged. Seeing the situation worsen, Parulkar ejected without wasting any time. His life was saved, but fate dropped him to enemy land. When he landed, he was already injured. Struggling with pain, he was trying to gather himself when local Pakistani civilians started gathering around him. The crowd began shouting, "Enemy, enemy!" Within moments, they started beating him. His belongings were snatched. Due to injuries, exhaustion, and beating, Parulkar fainted. If there had been a slight delay, the crowd might have killed him. But just then, Pakistani soldiers arrived. They pushed the crowd away and said, "He's more useful alive." And this is how Dilip Parulkar was taken into custody, snatched away from the jaws of death. When Parulkar regained consciousness, he found himself locked in a dark, damp, narrow cell. In front of him stood a Pakistani officer. He handed him paper and pencil and said, "Draw the map of Adampur Air Base." Adampur Air Base was a very important Indian Air Force base. Parulkar immediately refused. What followed was a series of torture. Finally, under heavy pressure, Parulkar drew a map. The officer was very pleased, but after some time, he returned in anger. Because Parulkar had not drawn Adampur Air Base, he had drawn the map of Mumbai Airport. Furious, the officer gave punishment. "You will stand in the corner of this cell all night." A guard was ordered that if Parulkar sat down, he should be shot immediately. Parulkar stood the entire night. His body was giving up, but the guard felt pity. He quietly said, "You can sit till morning. If anyone comes, I'll signal you." And Parulkar survived that night. Many nights passed like this. Continuous torture, but not a single word came out of his mouth. Eventually, the Pakistani officers got tired. This was the Rawalpindi POW camp, where 12 Indian Air Force pilots were held. Here Parulkar realized everyone had faced similar torture. Everyone had suffered, but no one had lost their courage. The camp in charge was Usman Hamid. He treated Indian pilots with respect, although many Pakistani officers didn't like this at all. It was Usman Hamid who gave them a cassette player and an atlas. Perhaps he didn't realize how important this small help would become. On 25th December 1971, news reached the camp. Pakistan had surrendered in Dhaka. India had won the war. 93,000 Pakistani soldiers were in Indian custody. Happiness spread across the camp. Everyone thought they would soon return home. But Parulkar felt something different.
He knew prisoner exchange could take a long time. He told his companions, "If we sit here, it may take years. Why not find our own way out?" At first, no one supported him, but Parulkar didn't give up. A seed had been planted in his mind, the seed of freedom, and this seed would soon turn into a plan that would shake the walls of Rawalpindi. After 25th December, a strange silence filled the camp. The war outside had ended, but for these 12 pilots, the battle was still on. Days passed, weeks passed, but no solid news came. Parulkar realized government talks could take time. He could not accept waiting. Freedom meant escaping on their own. Initially, he thought of another plan. While going to the toilet at night, they could snatch the guard's rifle and escape, but it was too risky. He dropped the idea. Time passed. Finally, two men joined him, M.S. Grewal and Harish Singh Ji. Now the real plan began. They started studying the atlas at night, understanding routes, exploring possibilities. The plan was clear. Going directly to the India-Pakistan border was too risky, so they decided they would go towards Afghanistan first. Next step, choosing the right cell. They needed a cell close to the outer wall. After careful observation, they selected cell number 4. But shifting there wasn't easy. Here Parulkar's intelligence worked. He had built good relations with guards. Finally, they were shifted to cell number 4. Another pilot, Vidyadhar Shankar Chati, was already there. He didn't want to escape, but agreed to help. Now came the biggest challenge, digging through the wall. The wall was 18 inches thick, without tools impossible. But somehow, they managed to steal a scissors and a screwdriver. Every night, from 12 to 1, work began under the bed. One dug the wall, others kept watch. Dust and cement were hidden under the bed. They even broke the bulb so guards couldn't see properly. One night, danger came very close. A guard saw only 3 pilots. Harish Singh was under the bed. The guard called. They pretended to sleep. He went to call Usman Hamid. In that moment, Harish quietly came out and lay down. When Hamid came, he scolded the guard instead. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. They removed cement, placed bricks back. Everything looked normal from outside. They saved money, bought dry fruits, condensed milk, made a compass using a cassette magnet and needle, got Pathani suits stitched to blend in after escape. Finally, the hole was big enough. Only the last plaster layer was left. 13th August 1972, dark clouds covered the sky. Heavy rain began. This was the night. They wore Pathani suits, took supplies, hugged Chati and broke the final layer. One by one, they crawled out. A guard was sleeping nearby. They ran, made a rope with clothes, climbed the wall and crossed it. They were out. But the real struggle had just begun. They reached a bus stand, got a bus to Peshawar, reached at 6 a.m. To avoid suspicion, they pretended to be Christians. Then took another bus, reached Landi Kotal. Meanwhile, back in the camp, chaos erupted. The escape was discovered. Guards were shocked. They even thought of killing Chati, but didn't dare. Now, the 3 pilots had to reach Torkham border, only 5 kilometers away. But they didn't know the route. They asked for Landi Khana station, but it had closed in 1932. People got suspicious. They were taken to a Tehsildar. They tried everything, even said they were Pakistani Air Force officers. But the Tehsildar didn't believe them. Finally, Parulkar made a mistake. He mentioned Usman Hamid. A call was made.
And everything was exposed. Soon, Pakistani soldiers arrived and took them back. They were given 30 days of solitary confinement. Later, shifted to another jail. Finally, in December 1972, Pakistan announced release of all Indian POWs. When they returned via Wagha border, thousands welcomed them, tears in eyes, pride on faces. This was not just a story of escape. This was a story of courage. A story of spirit that remains free even behind bars. And perhaps even today, the walls of Rawalpindi remember the night when 3 Indian pilots outsmarted them. Jai Hind.